So, hi, I'm Gilles Genvy, a postdoc researcher in artificial intelligence at the Riken AIP lab in Tokyo, and I'm glad to show you my work about multi-stage testing using determinantal point processes. So first, some context. There are many similarities between machine learning and psychometric models or concepts. So for example, you can see multidimensional item response theory as a matrix factorization with a sigmoid link function. So actually, MERT is shorter. And you can see calibration as some training of a machine learning model. And I'd like to say that it's similar to feature extraction, because in this case, you want to infer latent features for both your item banks and your users based on observed data. And also, there are some methods to control item exposure that are similar to some techniques used in exploration in machine learning, because you have the trade-off between some items in your bank that you know really well and some other items that were less administered to examinees. So there is a trade-off between using burning your items that you know well, or trying to explore more. So that's why the question behind this talk was, why not bring some ideas from machine learning to CAT and also do the other way? So adaptive testing is an adaptive way to administer tests where different examinees will receive questions based on their previous performance. So for example, the first question in this test, in this adaptive test, would be question 5, and based on if the answer of the examinee is correct or not, he or she will be routed towards question 3 or question 12, and so on. So you can see that different examinees receive different questions based on their behavior. And multi-stage testing is a similar idea where you ask a pool of questions at each step. So the motivation is that in CAT, we want to ask questions that will measure the parameters of the examinee accurately. So we want to minimize the uncertainty over the examinee parameters. But as it has been shown, the first maximum likelihood estimate of the examinee parameters may be hard to obtain. For example, in dimension 1, if you're using the Rasch model, the examinee should at least fail one item and succeed another item for the maximum likelihood estimate to exist. And in greater dimensions, the maximum likelihood estimate is even less likely to exist. So Chalmers, for example, suggests doing a pre-CAT, so asking a first group of questions at the beginning of the test before starting the adaptive process, which is an idea that is similar in multi-stage testing. So the question is how to choose the very first items. So my talk will be like this. So I will start by introducing the MERT model, which is multidimensional item response theory. Then I will show some example of visualization and present a measure of diversity that I can apply to the selection of the very first items in a multi-stage test, and then some experiments and results. So, and I'm really sorry, but this presentation will not be adaptive, which means the sequence of slides will be the same for everyone in the room. Okay. So I assume that I have access to dichotomous data, which are right and wrong answers. And Dij will be 1 or 0, whether if examinee I answers correctly item J or not. So it returns this event. So MERT model will model examinee I with an ability, which is a d-dimensional vector, and item J with a discrimination parameter, which is another vector, and a value for easiness. So as you can see, the probability that examinee I will answer correctly to question J is actually depends on the correlation between the ability vector of examinee I and the discrimination vector of question item J, plus an easiness parameter that will increase the chance of success. So I will give an example. So here are some data from middle school examinees that answered 20 fraction-subtraction items. And I calibrated a 2-dimensional MERT model, which means for each item, I will calibrate 2 parameters for discrimination. and parameters of easiness. And I will assume that my population has a Gaussian prior. So this is actually something that you can do really easily in R, because the fraction subtraction data is available in the CDM package, while the MERT package is easy to call for. Okay, so here is I'm calibrating a two-dimensional model over this data and trying to plot the discrimination parameters. So here is what I get. So the black dots are the items, the 20 items, and I displayed some of them. So the x-axis represents the first dimension of the discrimination, and the second axis represents the second dimension. So for easiness, I decided to represent minus A1, okay? So that every that it looks positive, okay? So as you can see, so the ultimate thing that you want to do when you're doing an adaptive test is to plot, actually to tell people to measure the ability estimate of a learner. So after asking all of those questions, you would like to estimate the ability of the learner in 2 dimensions and say that apparently you are here, so which means so this person presumably will have a higher probability of solving these items, but low probability to solve this kind of items. Okay, so what's interesting is that when you do this preliminary, prior visualization, is that you can try to interpret the components. So here you have items that discriminate only over 1 dimension because their ATU values is close to 0. So this item, so higher means it discriminates more. Okay. So and apparently these seem not to require to be able to put the fraction at the same denominator. It seems to reflect the fact that you understand what is the notation that is 3 plus 1 over 2 minus 2 plus 3 over 2. Okay, so this is what you can interpret. Well, there are some other items that highly discriminate over both dimensions. So you could interpret those. So as you can see, those values are really high. This is the easiness parameter, so which means this item is easier than this one. And indeed, if I was naive and I was a student, I would like, if I want to solve this, to multiply 3 by 8 and 3 by 4 if I was just applying the rule, which means that I may make mistake during the multiplication. Okay, so starting from just this plot, you can start to interpret components and this. But my problem here was if I must ask only 2 questions over all of these 20 items, which one should I choose? So do you think this is a good choice of items, for example? If I had to sample 2 items from the plot and ask them to an examinee. So actually not, because you will be measuring, you will have redundant information, your item will be correlated. So it's better to take, for example, these 2 items, because this one measures really well the first dimension, while this one will compensate in order to measure the second dimension. So the intuition is that as items that will have closed vector parameters will receive similar response patterns, the column in your data. We would like to maximize the diversity of what we ask to our examinee and present items of which parameters are least correlated to each other, which means the volume spanned is high. So in the 2-dimensional example, it was you want that your vectors span a large area, but in higher dimension, you just want that the volume of your parallelotope spanned in dimension D is high. So some background in geometry. So if we have n vectors, okay, n abstract vectors, and I is a subset of 1 over n. If I denote Vi, the matrix that will have as rows these d-dimensional vectors, then there is a formula for the volume that is spanned by the rows of Vi, which is given by the determinant of the Gramian square. Okay, so what I would like to do is to apply this method to the items of my bank, which are the discrimination parameters, and also the easiness parameter, which would be an extra dimension. So fortunately, there are determinantal point processes that are stochastic process that are a stochastic process that samples subsets, and such that diverse subsets will have higher probability to be drawn. So formally, DPP will sample a subset S that verifies the property that for every set I, the items of I will be included in the set that I sample with probability that is proportional to the square root of their volume. Okay, because as we saw in the previous slide, this equality holds. So it's a point process because it's a process over a discrete set, and it's called determinantal because it's proportional to determinant. So why is it useful for us? Because we will get so diverse subset with higher probability, so we will get items that measure different dimensions, and also there have been efficient algorithms to sample through this distribution. So k items will be drawn with probability O of k to the 3 times n, which makes it suitable for tens of thousands of dimensions. Okay, tens of thousands of items in a bank, and let's say you want to sample 10 of them, it will be still okay. After a costly process of n to the 3 that you just have to compute once. Okay, and also as this is a random process, it's not deterministic, so it may sample different sets every time you sample, which means you will not burn your items. Okay, you will have a lower item exposure. So these determinantal point processes have been successfully applied to a variety of machine learning problems, such as image search, where you assume that you're typing Jaguar in Google and you would like to have not only cars or not only animals. So you would like to sample diverse results, or also in document summarization. So in this case, what we are trying to make is we are trying to summarize our item bank that is really large with only k items. So the study I conducted was to compare a cat with a d-optimality criterion with the random selection in a multi-stage test, and also initial D, which is the proposed method, a DPP selection for a multi-stage test. And I will measure the performance of all these criterion at predicting examinee responses. And my metric will be the log loss, which means the negative log likelihood. So the study was conducted over 2 data sets, the fractions data set that you saw, and another one that is TIMSS in mathematics. So how does it look like? So I also assume actually that I have a Q matrix because as you may know, MERT models can be hard to compute for a number of dimensions greater than 4. So if I want more, a larger, I want vectors for my items of greater dimension, I prefer to have the help of an expert that designs a Q matrix, which is just a binary matrix for each items in my bank that will be mapped to skills, so knowledge components. And for each data set, okay, each of the 2 data sets, I train a MERT model on 80% of the data, and I have an extra constraint, which means that if the item J does not require skill K, then I will put the discrimination parameter to 0, which is actually equivalent to something called a general diagnostic model, which can be seen as a model that is both cognitive and also related to item response theory. So why do I do this? I want to get my item parameters so I can try DPP and sample items according to each criterion and compute the error. So here are my results. So there is a baseline that is so stupid that I will not comment it, but there is also the cat model here, and in x-axis is the number of questions that I sampled. So for example, here is if I sample 5 questions, here is and that I measure I sample 5 items. I try to estimate the ability of my examinee, and then I try to see if it predicts correctly the behavior over the rest of the items. Initial D, so the DPP will perform better than random, that will perform better than cat. So this was on the fraction data, and for teams data, it performed actually even better. So one of the reasons maybe, I didn't look so closely at the parameter itself, but one of the reasons may be that if you have an unbalanced item pool, you have many items that measure the same thing, so random will have high probability to draw items that measure the same thing, while as here you have the constraint that items will be sampled according to their diversity, it will provide better sets. So this actually means that if I sample a certain number of elements in a certain dimension, so here for this problem it was my vectors were in dimension 13, which is the number of skills. DPP seemed to achieve better performance at predicting the remaining examinees. So DPP provides a better summarization of your item bank. So as a conclusion, volume. So we represented a new criteria that can be used for the first stage of MST and maybe other stages of MST, and an algorithm called determinantal point an algorithm for sampling determinantal point processes that can be efficient and applied for this selection. And as a further work, we can wonder if it will be useful for later steps, or can it help teachers to build better modules at each stage. For example, you could have recommendation. For example, if a teacher wants to put certain items, it could autocomplete the set by saying like, okay, but within your item you forgot to add this dimension or the other dimension. So thank you very much, and if you're interested, all the codes and the benchmarks are available on GitHub. This is actually a 120 pages article that shows really broadly the examples in which, in machine learning, where DPP was used. Do we have any questions? Yes?
For the cat, what were the specifications at the initial stages?
Okay. So, for the cat, so everything was this train was made as a map with a Gaussian prior, okay, for the ability estimates, and
what was the estimation method?
Yeah, the estimation method at each step is actually when I checked again, it was a map. Okay, all over the test. So of course I should try ML. So because cat should be better, should behave better, at least later in the process. Yeah. So yes, because we are comparing a non-adaptive test with an adaptive test. So adaptive test should be better. But if you assume that that cat draws, so for example, if your Gaussian, if your prior is not good enough and your early estimates, they maybe really have a big standard error, and so maybe initial D should behave better, but I should do this. Yes, this is the next step. Okay. Okay. So thank you very much.